Right, so UFC 200, as I picked my bogeys there, nearly picked my bogeys on camera. UFC 263 went down on Saturday night. It is now Monday night, it's 11 p.m. And I've finally got some time to sit down and share some thoughts about what went down on Saturday night. My name is Rahul J-Chan, this is the Battle Camp. Thank you very much for joining me. I usually like to record these videos the day after, on the Sunday, but I had a busy Sunday. England played and then I had to go over to a relative's house, and then today's been busy as well, man. I've been working, I've been paying the bills, and I got myself a new car today. Whip, and I'm serving. I drive around in a foreign car and it's German. So yeah, I've literally just managed to sit down and let me just talk about the fights. Usually I do individual videos for individual fights, but because I'm late, you're late, mate, you're late. I've decided to just talk about the card as a whole. Usually one would start at the main event, you know, the most important fight on the card, but that's not what we're going to do today. We're going to start off talking about Leon Edwards against Nate Diaz. And the reason we're going to start there is I told you guys last week that this is the fight that I was most looking forward to on the card. So it's only right, it's the first fight I talk about when I review the show, you know. So look, I predicted that Leon Edwards was going to win, and I said prior to the fight that when I think about this fight, I find it difficult to find a route to victory for Nate Diaz when I consider what Nate Diaz is good at, and I matched it up against Leon Edwards and vice versa. So the fight itself played out pretty much as I anticipated, and that doesn't make me some sort of MMA guru, because I'm pretty sure a lot of you guys saw the fight going the way it did prior to the fight taking place, right? But one thing that I suppose one thing that I will kind of say about the fight is Nate Diaz's demeanor leading up to the fight. He's laid back, right, because he smokes a lot of weed. But the way he was carrying himself prior to the fight, in the pre-fight press conference, some of the kind of media calls that he did that I watched on YouTube and things of that nature. And this isn't me using hindsight and having 20/20 vision, just in the lead up to the fight, I felt like I saw a different Nate Diaz, and I felt like I felt like I saw a man that didn't have a lot to lose in this fight, and a man that knew the odds were stacked against him. And the way he performed in the octagon, I feel like it reflected that mindset. And the reason I say this is I feel like Nate Diaz, obviously he tried to win. Obviously he tried to inflict damage on Leon Edwards. But I feel like he very quickly reaffirmed in his own mind the dangers of trying to close the distance with Leon Edwards. Because every time he tried to do that, Leon Edwards was throwing out those calf kicks. And when Nate Diaz did manage to come in beyond those calf kicks, Leon Edwards was connecting with powerful shots. And then when he managed to come in close and they got into a grappling or a clinch kind of exchange, Leon Edwards was the dominant one in that phase of the fight as well. And then we started to see the kind of mind games that the Diaz brothers are good at. And, you know, on a number of occasions, Nate Diaz kind of turned his back, turned around, got into I don't even know how to describe the position he was in, but it wasn't a fighting stance. And he was trying to tease a reaction out of Leon Edwards. And that reaction never came. It's funny because one tool that Nate Diaz uses to good effect, and it usually has very good results for him is the right hand and then the straight left, which is what eventually rocked Leon Edwards in the last minute of the fight. And Nate Diaz, I think very early on in the fight, lost hope. It's a strong way of saying things by saying he lost hope, but he realized it's going to be very difficult to land that combination or a strike in that manner. And Leon Edwards pretty much just dictated that fight from start to the 4th minute of the 5th round. Now, obviously, Nate Diaz did rock Leon Edwards right at the end of the fight. And there was that 5-second window from after he rocked Leon Edwards, he decided to point at Leon Edwards rather than go in and try to land some more strikes, because he did manage to, about 20 seconds after that initial strike, he did land on Leon Edwards against the cage, against the fence. Who knows? He may have got the finish if he didn't point. But you have to also take into account, even though Nate Diaz is a man that has, you know, this legendary gas tank, he probably was tired, because it wasn't just the fact that he'd been fighting for 24 minutes. He'd also been effectively getting beaten up for 24 minutes. The outcome of the fight itself, before I talk about the outcome, Leon Edwards, he basically put in a punch-perfect performance. And I find his performance very similar to Israel Adesanya's, because they both did what they needed to do without having to put themselves in any danger or do anything overly risky to get the upper hand against their opponent, right? So Leon Edwards put in a punch-perfect performance, and I've been seeing this narrative of, how unlucky is Leon Edwards, and, right at the, it was such a good fight for him, and then right at the end, Nate Diaz does that, and it makes Leon Edwards look bad, and this, that, and the other. Like, these guys, they're not fucking in there tickling each other's bums, like, they're fighting. You're gonna get hit eventually, and sometimes it hurts. But the way Leon Edwards weathered that storm, you can't fault him, innit? Like, that was one round. Like, it was so clear that fight. Like, the first 4 rounds, Leon Edwards won. And the final round, Nate Diaz won. I feel like that Leon Edwards got hit by Nate Diaz at the end of the fight because I put it down to more of a lapse of concentration. I put it down to him probably knowing, all right, I've got a minute left. So now he's kind of thinking, all right, all I've got to do is not get hit. And I'm talking on his behalf like I know exactly what's going through his head, but this is just my opinion, right? He probably just thought, all right, well, let's just wind down. And he maybe didn't have that instinct in his mind to attack or to, I don't know what the right way of saying this is. A lapse of concentration is the right way of saying it, which was the initial phrase that I used, but that's what I feel it was. Now, you can have a lapse of concentration, whether it's, the last minute of the fight like this or the first minute of a fight. But the way Leon Edwards fought for 24 minutes, I feel like he gave a good account of himself. Now, obviously, it would have been a lot better for Leon Edwards and his case for a title shot if he not only put in a dominant performance like he did, but he also managed to finish Nate Diaz. But we all know Nate Diaz is a very durable individual. And one thing that I did like about this fight, probably because I like both of these fighters, Leon Edwards and Nate Diaz are both up there in my top 10 current fighters on the UFC roster in terms of people that I fanboy over. The respect that both of them showed each other throughout the fight, I like that. Do you know what I mean? Like, Nate Diaz was very complimentary of Leon Edwards in the build up to the fight, and that's something that you don't really see from Nate Diaz very often, and that might speak to what I was talking about earlier on at the start of this video, that perhaps Nate Diaz knew that he had a big mountain to climb in the shape of Leon Edwards, and that's why he chose to talk up his opponent, because he knew his chances of beating Leon Edwards weren't as great as perhaps a different opponent. Much respect to Nate Diaz for taking this fight, and I suppose one positive is both of them came out better for it. Do you know what I mean? So even though Nate Diaz lost the fight, he came out looking like a very, very competent welterweight, and Leon Edwards showed that he is a high caliber welterweight in the way that he managed to deal with Nate Diaz, someone who's very durable, someone who doesn't get put away easily, and someone that has a big old gas tank. So that's my thoughts on the Leon Edwards Nate Diaz fight. I personally would like to see Leon Edwards fight Jorge Masvidal next. I don't know whether that's a fight that Jorge Masvidal is willing to consider, and I also don't know when Jorge Masvidal would like to fight next. Leon Edwards did say that he wants to go away on holiday and have a bit of a break because he's been training continuously, and he'd look to come back towards the end of the year. That timeline sort of fits in with a Jorge Masvidal fight, but it also sort of fits in with a fight against the winner of Kobe Covington and Kamaru Usman, if they fight kind of, by August or something like that. But, that fight hasn't been announced, so we don't know when it's going to happen. Nate Diaz, he also said he wants to fight again. He wants to be active. And in terms of an opponent for Nate Diaz, it's a difficult kind of playing field out there. But next month, Conor McGregor fights Dustin Poirier, and if Dustin gets a win there, then I think Conor McGregor's the guy that Nate Diaz will be pinpointing as his next opponent. Moving on.